You might have seen this in movies quite a few times. On one of the characters' shoulders sits a little angel with the good advice and being supportive and compassionate, and on the other side sits a little devil whispering the worst possible suggestions into your ear, throwing harsh comments around, and fully embracing being a negative Nancy. And no matter who you are or where you are on your journey, you've probably experienced that little voice in your head that just doesn't seem to shut up as well. And that's the inner critic, which we will unpack in this episode and the next part of the series, all about the most common self-sabotage types. Actually, according to Ronald Huang, a registered clinical counselor and psychotherapist, negative self-talk is a common barrier to mental well-being, and these forms of inner dialogue can hold us back by reinforcing self-doubt and anxiety. To go into a little more detail, the inner critic is that harsh, negative voice inside your head that judges, criticises, and belittles you. It's the voice that tells you you're not good enough, that you'll never succeed, or that you're always falling short. This isn't just the occasional self-doubt or worry. It's an ongoing narrative that undermines your confidence and keeps you stuck in patterns of self-sabotage and, as said, self-doubt. And we all have an inner critic. It literally is universal. But the important part is to always remember it's not who you are. It's just part of your mind trying to protect you, even though in a rather unhelpful way. It thinks that kind of like by pointing out your flaws or what you're doing wrong and reminding you of your failures, it's keeping you safe from future disappointment or rejection. But in reality, it's actually holding you back. And the inner critic actually does stem from critical messages we internalize during childhood, as it is with any self-sabotage types. So maybe you had a parent, teacher, or coach who was very quick to point out your mistakes, but slow to acknowledge your successes. Or perhaps you grew up in an environment where love and approval felt conditional, only given when you performed well or met certain standards. It could also be that you were compared to someone who did things better than you, or even with someone that other person that you look up to and respect or want the approval of, considered as very bad. So a personal example here from my side would be that my dad, for example, often said nasty things about my mum, and within the same sentence would say, I'm exactly like her, which led to me then believing I'm not a good person. Especially as children, we just internalize these messages and turn them into beliefs about ourselves. Like, I'm only worthy if I'm perfect, or I need to work harder to be good enough. Which results then as adults that this voice shows up as this relentless inner critic, constantly pushing us to do more, be more, and achieve more, never really allowing us to feel satisfied or content. The truth about negative self-talk is, it's not a reflection of reality. It's a habit. It's a pattern of thinking that can be changed. Just because the inner critic says something doesn't make it true. But the more we listen to it, the more power we give it, the more power it has over our lives and how we perceive life and how we show up for ourselves. And it's to no surprise that, especially for entrepreneurs and business owners, the inner critic can be incredibly damaging. So when you're constantly second-guessing yourself or focusing on your perceived flaws, it becomes almost impossible to take risks or put yourself out there, which is crucial to make your business a success, right? So for example, you might have an idea for a new product or a new service, but your inner critic tells you, who are you to do this? Like, there's so many people out there already doing it better or way longer than you have. So you then hold back, you hesitate, and the idea you had never actually sees the light of the day. Or maybe you struggle to accept praise or recognition. So when someone compliments your work, you just brush it off thinking like, they're just being nice. It wasn't really that good. Or to just like, you can't accept it. It's more like, no, it's not true, because you don't see it as your own personal truth. And this not only diminishes your confidence, but also limits your potential for growth and success. If you don't believe in your own worth and abilities, like, how can you expect others to do it then for you? So now the question is, how do we work through this? How do we quiet this inner voice and start treating ourselves with more kindness and compassion. And as always, we got to start with that self-awareness. So start with identifying the critic's voice. Start by paying attention to when your critic shows up. What does it say? Is there a specific tone or phrase it uses? The more you can recognize its voice, the more you can separate it from your true self. Maybe it even comes up as a specific figure in your mind, a symbol or a color. Maybe there's some very specific emotions attached to it. Whatever helps you to identify it easier when it comes up again the next time, start noticing those things. Start noticing those patterns. And then also, when it's the case, challenge its assertions. So when your inner critic tells you something negative, challenge it. Literally ask yourself, hey, hang on, is this actually really true? Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence that I'm not good enough? Where's the evidence that too many people out there are already doing this way better than me, and that everybody is already doing exactly the same way as I would? Likelihood is that that's not true. That's not the case. Of course, there will be people doing it. Maybe there are people doing it better because you think it that way. But there's no one who can do it like you, or in a way that you can do, or in the way that you might be able to improve the process or the product or the service that already exists, right? So often you will find that your critic's statements are based on fear and actually past experiences, not on the reality of the present moment, which is then your chance to reframe those negative thoughts. So instead of focusing on what you did wrong or where you fell short, reframe your thoughts to focus on what you did right. For example, instead of saying, I totally messed up that presentation, try, I did my best and I learned something valuable for the next time. In fact, a study on athletes that compared 4 types of self-talk, including instructional, motivational, positive, and negative, has found that positive self-talk was the greatest predictor of success, meaning targeted positive self-talk sessions, or you reframing the negative self-talk into a positive one, may help to improve one's psychological states and performance. This also leads into practicing self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a friend or your best friend. If a friend came up to you with those self-critical thoughts, you'd likely offer support and reassurance, not judgment and being like, yes, you're shit, you're right, like this is absolutely miserable, like fuck that. Give yourself that same gift of compassion as you would your best friend. Last but not least though, limit comparisons. Your journey is unique. Comparing yourself to others is surefire way to fuel the inner critic. So instead of measuring your progress against others, focus on your own growth and celebrate the small wins along the way in your own journey. So to all of you out there struggling with your inner critic, remember that you're not alone. This voice doesn't define you and it doesn't have to control you. It doesn't have to. It's your choice. The power to change your inner dialogue and build a healthier, more supportive relationship with yourself literally is within your reach. It's within your mind. You just got to make the decision to start creating that self-awareness and taking those steps to really nip it in the bud. You just have to start noticing slowly, and then really gently start to debunk and reframe it. And with that, if you like this episode, please do like it on YouTube and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcast. It's just a couple of taps for you, but it means a whole lot to me. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks so much for watching. That was right. Yeah, thanks so much for watching and listening, and I shall see you again in the next episode.